What's up, guys? I'm Spencer24 Sony, and this is my review of the 2008 Nintendo fighting game Super Smash Bros. Brawl. First of all, I'd like to apologize for my extreme lack of videos during the past 2 weeks. I've been real busy, a lot of things have been going on at school, and I just haven't found enough spare time. With that, I'm going to do my usual routine of annoyingly asking for you to rate and subscribe, knowing, of course, that you are likely not to do it anyway. Welcome to YouTube. I will go ahead and tell you that this review will be a little bit similar to my Halo review, as in it being quite long and containing many personal views and comparisons. So be prepared, as this may be the review of Super Smash Bros. Brawl that you've been looking for, or it could be the review of Super Smash Bros. Brawl that will cause you to shoot yourself out of frustration of seeing the same thing. Anyway, I've only played the original Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 64 a few times, but I had bought its successor, Melee, back in 2002. It actually was the third game that I had gotten from a Nintendo GameCube. It was also the first game at the time that I had actually liked. Fast loading, amazing graphics, and smooth gameplay were mainly what kept this disc from ejecting out of my GameCube for a good amount of time. I took breaks from it, but I pretty much played it through the beginning of 2008. It's not my favorite GameCube game, but that's because I don't necessarily have one right now. I really felt that the game was underrated. So naturally, when I had heard that a new installment in the series, titled Super Smash Bros. Brawl, was coming out, I had pretty high expectations. I waited for what genuinely felt like forever for the game to come out, and I know I wasn't the only one. I, like most sad people, nearly lost my mind when it had gotten delayed the first time, and by the point where it had gotten delayed the second time, I questioned of whether or not I had one. I thought that these guys had to be working pretty hard on this game. So yeah, I had high expectations. Were they met? Not exactly. When I had finally bought it, on the day it came out of course, there were a couple of things that I was severely disappointed with. First of all, the loading is terrible. In comparison to Melee, which took 5 seconds at most to load. This game was made 7 years later. It has absolutely no reason to have slow loading. Second of all, the graphics. There were some areas and some characters, mostly new ones, that looked pretty good, but some background areas largely lacked in detail, and obviously were rushed. Considering that this game was released 7 years after its predecessor, it had absolutely no reason to have graphics that lacked so much in detail. Third of all, the fact that once again the CPU's highest level is only level 9. Now, I'm not trying to brag at all, but after all my practice, I was nearly indestructible on Melee. I had practiced nearly every night finding level 9 CPUs in an attempt to be more prepared for Brawl. I mean, they could have at least given the option of CPUs going up to level 12 or something. When I began to play Brawl, I was very disappointed because there was simply no challenge to it. I'm saying this because I know that I'm not the only one who felt this way. If level 9s are still a challenge to you, then great. But if you have already mastered defeating level 9s at Melee, you simply won't find much that's difficult in this game. Did the makers of this that had apparently spent so much time thinking about this game once consider this? If anything, Brawl felt easier than Melee. Another thing, the designs of the characters. I won't spend much time complaining about this because it's very minor, but I didn't like how some of these characters were made. In Melee, the characters pretty much looked like they did in any other 2000 game that they had appeared in. But this time, oh no, they had to make all the characters look real dramatic and have all these dark linings and realistic designs. To me, this was just a big mistake. This isn't Halo. These are Nintendo characters. They're not supposed to look dark or realistic or anything like that. They're supposed to look cartoonish. To me, the new designs of most of the characters just made them look weird. Again, this wasn't a big problem I had with the game, as I can understand wanting to give the veteran characters new looks. I was also a little disappointed with the game only having 35 characters total. That's only 10 more than Melee, and there's a 7-year gap between these games. At least 40 would have been okay. I simply felt that these problems, though not severe enough to make the game bad, were really just pitiful. That's right, I'm far from planning on giving this game a negative rating. Remember, long review? Over the couple of months I played Brawl, I began to appreciate it a little more than I did when I played it on the first day. This game has a very good variety of options, It had some things that I didn't expect, yet at the same time were brilliant. I love that when you pause the game during a fight, you can look around the entire stage. It's also easier to take snapshots, but I was disappointed with the limit of snapshots you could take. Also, you can create your own stage, and although that sounds great, you only have a short amount of simple pieces, and you can only choose from 3 different backgrounds. Of course, you can choose any song that you get while playing the game, and a variety of songs is great. The music in this game overall is really good, although I prefer Melee's theme over Brawl's, but both of them I really like. Another thing you can do during this game is replay a fight that you had, but of course the fight has to be only a few minutes long. I mean, it's like the creators of this game have all these great and original ideas, but they don't go more advanced with them. They just put all of them in there with little options. If you're doing something that no one has done before, don't just make it, take it and go farther with it. Most of the characters from Melee return, with only a few of them, notably Jigglypuff, not getting a welcome back party. Most will have no trouble saying goodbye to Pichu, but some non-returning characters such as Mewtwo and Roy were really fan-beloved, and it didn't make much sense that they didn't return, even if they got replaced with characters of a close resemblance. Some new characters such as Meta Knight and Wario are of course warmly welcomed. I hated the fact that Sonic was in the game, because Sega only allowed for him to be in it because they haven't made a good Sonic game since 2001, and they're just surrendering to Nintendo. Another thing that I had appreciated of the game is that unlike Melee, where you had to do all these weird things to unlock all of the characters, it's fairly easy to get everyone. You can get most characters by simply playing Subspace Emissary. Subspace Emissary, by the way, sucked, but at least the creators tried to put a story in the game. The game was overall really good, but I just felt that they had all of these great and original ideas, but didn't go a step farther with them. I felt that Melee did that, and that is one of the reasons why I felt it was underrated. I felt that this game didn't try as hard as it could have, and thus, it didn't quite meet my expectations. It almost did, but not quite. I'm Spencer24 Sony, and this is my review of Super Smash Bros. Brawl.